One of them feels everything. The other feels nothing. One gives until they're empty. The other takes until you're broken. And for years you believed the cold one was winning. But what if I told you the entire game has been rigged in reverse, and the person you thought was destroying you was actually building something inside you they can never have? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to show you something almost no one talks about. Two minds, two opposite operating systems. One ends in collapse. The other ends in awakening. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which side of the war you've been on, and why it was never a fair fight to begin with. If this is your first time here, this is Motivation Thrones, where we decode the psychology nobody else dares to explain. Let's start with something uncomfortable. The empath and the narcissist are not just two personality types. They are two completely different relationships with reality itself. The empath feels the room before they enter it. They absorb emotions the way a sponge absorbs water, involuntarily, completely, painfully. Their nervous system is wired for connection. Their brain literally lights up when someone else is in pain. The narcissist? Their internal world is a mirror, not a window. Every conversation, every relationship, every interaction, it's all reflection. How do I look in this? How does this make me feel? What can I extract? Here's what's disturbing. Neither of them chose this. The empath was usually the child who had to read the room to survive, the parent who came home unpredictable, the household where one wrong word meant emotional war. So the child learned to feel everything, fast, to stay safe. The narcissist was often the child who learned the opposite lesson. Feelings are dangerous. Weakness is punished. Only image matters. So they built a fortress where no one, not even themselves, could ever reach the real them. Two wounded children, two completely opposite strategies. And life, in its cruel poetry, keeps pulling them toward each other. But here's where it gets strange, and I'll show you the science in a moment. The narcissist needs the empath far more than the empath needs them. Remember that, because everything I'm about to tell you depends on it. So what happens when these two collide? At first, magic. Real, breathtaking magic. The narcissist mirrors the empath perfectly. They study them. They become exactly what the empath has been searching for their whole life. Soulmate energy, twin flame language. I've never met anyone like you. The empath, starved for genuine connection, finally feels seen. But here's the trick. They were never being seen. They were being scanned. Phase 1. Idealization. The narcissist gives so much praise, so much attention, so much intensity, that the empath's brain releases massive amounts of dopamine and oxytocin. Chemically, the empath becomes addicted, not to love, to the feeling of finally being chosen. Phase 2. Devaluation. Slowly, the mirror cracks. Compliments turn into criticism. Warmth turns into withdrawal. The empath, confused, starts working harder. What did I do wrong? How do I get them back? Phase 3. Discard or destruction. The narcissist either leaves cold or stays just to bleed them dry. And here's the part nobody tells you. This entire cycle is not a relationship. It's a feeding mechanism. If you've ever lived through this, pause for 1 second and let that land. It wasn't love that failed. It was never love at all. You were in a system you didn't sign up for. That's not your fault. Now to the question this entire video is built around. Who actually wins in the end? On the surface, it looks obvious. The narcissist walks away unbothered. New supply, new victim, new mask. The empath is left in pieces, questioning their reality, their worth, their sanity. But surfaces lie. So let's go deeper. The narcissist's life trajectory. Studies on narcissistic personality structures show a consistent pattern. Early life, they thrive. Charm, ambition, manipulation work in their favor. Midlife, the mask gets heavier. Relationships collapse in repeating patterns. By late life, the data is brutal. Isolation, paranoia, untreated depression, and a terrifying inability to be alone with themselves. Because the one person they spent their whole life avoiding is the only person left in the room. The empath's trajectory? Devastating in the short term. Genuinely. The collapse after narcissistic abuse can be one of the most psychologically violent experiences a human nervous system endures. But, and this is the part that changes everything, the empath has something the narcissist cannot manufacture, cannot fake, and cannot steal. Self-awareness. The empath rebuilds. Slowly, painfully, but inevitably. They go to therapy, they read, they watch videos like this one. They become the version of themselves that can finally see the trap from above. The narcissist? They cannot do this. The moment they truly see themselves, the entire architecture of their identity collapses. So the defense system never lets them look. The empath ends in awakening. The narcissist ends in repetition. One escapes the loop, the other dies inside it. Sometimes literally, often spiritually. But there's one more thing. Something almost no psychologist says out loud. And it's the real reason the narcissist hunts the empath so aggressively in the first place. The narcissist isn't attacking the empath out of hatred. They're attacking them out of envy. Deep down, in a place they will never admit, even to themselves, the narcissist knows. They know the empath has something they were locked out of as a child, the ability to feel, the ability to love, the ability to be moved by a sunset, by music, by another human being's pain. The narcissist tried to feel once, as a child, and the world punished them so severely for it that they buried that capacity in concrete and forgot where they buried it. When they meet an empath, that buried part of them screams, not in love, in rage. How dare you have what I had to give up to survive? So they don't try to love the empath. They try to break the part of the empath that reminds them of what they lost. And if they succeed, if they make the empath cold, bitter, numb, distrustful, they feel for one brief moment that they've evened the score with life. But here's the cosmic punchline. They never can. Because the empath, even at their lowest, still has something the narcissist gave up forever. A soul that can still feel. And that soul, no matter how wounded, will eventually wake up. So who wins? The narcissist wins the battle. Every single time. They're better at battles. Manipulation is their language. But the empath wins the war. Always. Because the war was never about who hurt who. It was about who survived themselves. The narcissist spends a lifetime running from their own reflection. The empath spends a few years rebuilding theirs and walks out of the fire transformed. If you've been broken by someone like this, hear me clearly. You didn't lose. You were initiated. What feels like the end of your life right now is actually the death of the version of you that could be deceived. The next version of you, the one being forged in this pain, will be unreachable by people like them ever again. That's not poetry. That's neuroscience. That's psychology. That's history. And that's you. If this video reached something inside you, do me one favor. Type the word awake in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe if you want more truths like this one, and I'll see you in the next video, where we go even deeper. You're not broken. You're becoming.